gentlemen. So this is going to be part 2 of One for the Men. If you want to keep up on what we've been talking about, just watch the previous video, One for the Men. Now, to take this little series further, we're going to talk about sexual immorality and celibacy, specifically if you are a single man, and why you should be doing it. So, toward the end of yesterday's video of One for the Men, we were talking about Delilah and Jezebel and the destruction that they brought upon men. Jezebel brought entire destruction on Israel completely, and Delilah brought Samson down. The strongest man who ever walked the earth fell because of a woman. But like I said, we're going to take this even further. Specifically, if you're a single man and why you should be practicing celibacy. Now, take Jesus, Paul, so many other men of the Bible who practiced this and the benefits they reaped from it. Now, we all know that Jesus is the Son of God. He was fully God, fully man. Now, if we're looking at his side of being man, he practiced celibacy all his life. And as a result of that, he did not have a woman to tear him down. He wasn't distracted. Him being a single, celibate man, he was able to keep his focus on God. And when you keep your focus on God, you're strong, you're focused, you're on the right path, and there's nothing bad that comes from that at all. Take Paul, for example. He was also a single, celibate man. He also didn't have distractions, which come from being in a relationship. Not saying there's anything wrong with being in a relationship, but just do it the godly way. We could get into that too. But anyway, he was focused, he was driven, he wasn't swaying in the sense of being distracted by a woman, therefore leading him off the right path. And he wrote most of the New Testament. You got the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, absolutely. However, there's a lot more to the New Testament other than 4 eyewitness accounts of Jesus. And again, Paul wrote most of the New Testament. There's a lot in the New Testament. And Paul, being single, being celibate, he was able to keep himself focused by focusing on nothing but God, and he was able to get his work done. Now, how does that apply to any single man today? Well, we are no different from Paul. We're no different from any man in the Bible other than Jesus Christ himself, because he lived a perfect, sinless life. Now, the example that we can find in Paul's life is, even though we are flawed men, which we all are, if you are a single man, you're not fornicating, you stay celibate, you maintain and can even increase strength. You can stay focused. When you're not distracted, you get the job done. What man in their right mind wouldn't want to be focused, strong, intuitive, more collective, able to think more clearly? And as a matter of fact, if you don't know this, science actually supports celibacy, or to be specific with men, semen retention. If you're uncomfortable with that term, I mean, sorry, not sorry. I'm just being straight up here. When you, as a man, retain your seed, you are retaining your life force, essentially. Your testosterone levels skyrocket. You can even look it up for yourself if you don't want to take my word for it. You're more intuitive, like I just said. You're more focused, you're more driven, your energy levels are incredibly high as a result of higher testosterone. And with God on your side, practicing this discipline, semen retention, there's really nothing that can stop you but yourself. Now, let's go along the lines of relationships outside of God's plan. Again, yesterday we were talking about Samson when it came to Delilah and his downfall. When Samson and Delilah got together, was not a part of God's plan. I mean, eventually, toward the end of his life, he used that for his benefit, but God did not lead Samson to Delilah to come together. Samson did that out of his own free will, and as a result, he fell. Now, anything outside of God's plan is always going to lead you to an utter downfall. Why would you want to do that? Now, Samson could not keep his sexual urges at bay. He couldn't keep himself under control. And when he lost his focus, when he lost control, he essentially gave up everything that God had in store for him. I mean, keep in mind, Samson took a Nazirite vow, which had numerous benefits, and because he could not control his sexual urges, he forfeited all of that. And when he forfeited all that, he was in the hands of the Philistines before he knew it. And that's that. And what we can all, as men, single celibate men, learn from that is don't forfeit your strength for a woman, especially a woman who has no good intentions towards you, that could care less if you succeed, wants to be more powerful than you, wants to control you, and have you eating out of the palm of her hand. Don't do that. There's no good outcome in that at all. And when you're fornicating with women, which is, again, sex outside of marriage, which is outside of God's plan, you're forfeiting everything that God himself has in store for you. Why would you want to do that? I mean, I've fornicated. I know how devastating it can be. There's no good outcome in it. The temporary pleasure you get out of having sex with a woman outside of marriage because you can't control your urges, like I just said, it's temporary. And you forfeit what God has for you. You feel ashamed. You feel filthy. You feel dirty, depressed. And depending on how much you do it, you might even get to the point where you don't even want to live anymore. I've been there, and I know many other men have. But you have to take accountability for that, because nobody made you fornicate but yourself. Now, granted, there's a lot of influence which women give off. There's temptation all around, but you make your own decisions. Regardless of all that temptation being there, you have the choice whether or not you cave in. That's all up to you. Don't forfeit your strength for a woman. I'm talking to all of us single, celibate Christian men. And like I said before, a relationship is not bad at all. So let's not get that twisted. When it is in God's plan where you can have a wife, that is a beautiful thing. But you shouldn't settle for less than that for the simple fact that you can't control your urges. Now, you can get married to satisfy those urges, absolutely. But until then, practice celibacy. Do not give your strength up for a woman who has no good intentions for you. Believe me, you're going to keep regretting it if that's something that you're doing habitually. And if you are in that position, I highly suggest that you stop, because you're just destroying yourself, man. And it ain't worth it. Not one bit. So yeah, this is part 2 for the men about sexual immorality and celibacy, why you should practice celibacy as a single man of God, and the benefits, which I will go over again, which science backs up. Increased physical strength, mental clarity, more in tune with God because you're not breaking his will for you and defiling the marriage bed and not practicing sexual immorality. And the energy you have, the life that you'll retain, don't give that up. It is not good for you, man. So, if you're single man, following Jesus, keep it up with the celibacy until that time comes, or if that time comes, for God to lead you to your wife. And if God's calling you to be a single man, maybe forever, rejoice about that. You have an advantage over most other men. You won't be distracted. You'll be focused. Your attention isn't going to be divided. You can get more things done, be more productive than most married men. That's your advantage being a single man. So I hope this encourages someone. I hope that if you're practicing semen retention, keep it up. Don't give up. Go to God when the temptations get very strong, and you'll be good. Just don't try to resist sexual temptations in your own strength. God bless you. We'll see you in part 3.